Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Other Side. I'm your host, Bob Serba, and with me tonight is my host, Paul Fournier, and our special guest, Drew Kularski, who is going to be running for school committee. We got a lot of questions, so we're going to get right to it. Drew, let's start off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
As you said, my name is Andrew Kularski. I grew up in Leicester. I have four children, three which are currently in the district, two at Wyatt Village, one at Lake Street School. I'm a parent who's, wants to be involved in the process, which is why I want to step up for the school committee. A little bit more about myself is I'm a detective for a municipal police department in the state. I've been a police officer for just over 13 years. In my role as a police officer, I've been a union president. I've negotiated contracts. I'm not a union president now. There's a lot of things I don't agree with some of the union stuff. But I think I have enough experience in the contract area where I think I can give some input on different ways to negotiate and thinking outside the box solutions. Getting to a contract with teachers, which there's an open contract now, is not just teachers, any union, it's a working relationship, and you have to maintain that working relationship, and it has to be fair for both sides.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I chose to run for school committee is, one, I have kids in the district. I have a vested interest. But I do see that the district and I guess the town is going in the wrong direction. I think they're shortchanging the schools. I think the town is shortchanging the town. I've written articles, editorials in the New Leader. I've made comments. I've been vocal at meetings of, we're getting what we pay for, and that's town-wide. Look at the roads. Look at some of the buildings in town. Look at the police department runs at a bare bones budget. The fire department runs at a bare bones budget. You guys had Chief Parsons in here. Those are the reasons why I think the town needs to change. But education-wise, if the education doesn't change, the town's not going to change. If you look on Zillow or any other website that lists houses for sale, on those websites, the first, second, or third thing has something to do with the schools. And then I looked at Zillow today. The first thing you see is a big red 5 for, they grade it differently than the state, but a big red 5 for Knox Trail School, saying that it's basically an underperforming school. If I was looking to have my house for sale, which I did have my house for sale when this whole fiasco started, and I couldn't sell it. I had people look at it, and I don't know, maybe it was because of what's going on with the district, what turned them away. I can't say that for sure, but I know the reason why I was looking to leave is because of the district. My house didn't sell. I'm planning on staying in town for a bit longer, so I figured maybe I could be part of the solution.
Not a bad place to start. You've been to meetings. I've seen you at some of the meetings. What would you do differently, or how would you approach things in terms of what you're seeing going on right now? And I'm not asking you to be critical of the current committee. Just as a parent and as someone who was a union negotiator, what would you do differently than kind of what you're seeing right now?
Well, that's a huge topic, and we could probably talk for hours about it. One thing that I don't like is, obviously we know there's a trust issue within the district, and the town doesn't trust us, the people don't trust us, and when the town fathers don't trust you to support something, it's going to be awfully hard to move past that.
Yeah.
One thing that I think where I agree with you folks, and I don't agree with a lot of things you guys do, and I think it's clear.
Neither does my wife.
I want to put on the record, just because there's a lot of people in town that don't like you and don't like you. I don't know you.
I'm shocked.
I don't know you. I don't know you guys. I've never, other than the phone call for you guys to invite me here.
Yep.
I've never met you. I monitor your site because I want to learn what's going on in town. I want to learn different views. I read the paper because I want to learn different views. I follow some of the parent websites because I want to know the different views of what's going on in town. So I think the biggest mistake that the current school committee is making right now, at least you guys are posting emails back from Dr. Malvey, and then obviously there was the last school committee meeting where you were personally attacked, basically saying you're throwing half-truths. Well, what's the other half of that truth if it's only a half-truth? If there's nothing to hide, show it. Because what that's going to do is it's going to regain the trust of the public. how can you move forward if you don't have that trust? If you open up your books and say, hey, Bob Serba's wrong, what's better than that?
We go away.
You go away and you move on to the next topic. I'm not alleging there's something wrong. I have no idea. I have very little knowledge of, the ongoings of this district prior to last year. I didn't pay attention because I didn't think I needed to. Last year when everything started, I started paying attention. And what I noticed is that it just looks like there's a big stone wall, and they don't want to give the information out. And that information, if there's nothing to hide, they should just show it. And even if there is something to hide, did it happen on your watch? We don't know. But there's a reason to look at the documents, at least to say, you know what, everything was either done right or everything was done wrong, and create that baseline of where's a point to start over. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I absolutely get it. And that's kind of where we were going with this from the beginning. And it wasn't that we have, we don't know Dr. Melvey. Dr. Melvey came, as you know, Dr. Melvey came into this district, and you bring up the point, and I think that's clear to everybody. It's like, stop the stonewalling and just get on with the information. We're asking for information. It's a question of public record. Put the information out there.
The other thing that's always been insulting to me as a public employee, because I see it happen a lot, is the charging for public documents and having someone, jump through the hoops to get the documents. It just seems like a stall tactic to me. But maybe there's nothing to hide. I don't know, because I'm not in that seat. I'm not in the position. But I just see, to me, it just makes more sense just to show the documents. Everything you're looking for, say, here it is. Come look at our books, whoever you want.
Well, I think that the biggest advantage that Bob and I have, and Josh as well, is that we've already been on the committee, so we've already been on the inside of the machine, so we kind of know what goes on, and some of it's not very pretty. Mm-hmm. Some of it I can't talk about because I was on the committee when some of this went through, and legally I just can't talk about certain things. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of things that, even while on the committee, I didn't appreciate, as far as you could never get a direct answer. Somebody would talk to you face to face, and then the next thing you know, behind your back, something else is happening, or numbers are moving, or something shifted. I think we've beaten this to death a couple times, as far as.
Absolutely.
But to give Drew his due diligence, he is correct as far as one of the first shows that we did here. I had 3 cups and a ball, and it was like, here, where's the money? Mm-hmm. You got to find it. Here it is. And that's really how it goes, and that's sad.
Well, I understand the money portion, and I understand there's I don't want to say fixated, but I'm going to use the word fixated. You guys are fixated on $833,000 that disappeared out of the budget. But what I do know is that there was a lot of positions cut from the budget. Whether that's is incorporated in the 833, but we do know that there was substantial cuts that occurred while you were on the board that you had agreed to, and while the current board had agreed to, as they were moving forward, in order to be able to be somewhat financial feasible to move forward, or financially stable to move forward and run the district and be able to teach our children. There's I lost my train of thought. Excuse me.
Cuts.
A lot of the cuts that occurred, were true cuts.
Absolutely. Nobody's arguing
that are not coming back, and
there were pink slips that were given out by interim superintendent Zabaki, that were demanded by the Department of Education and the DOR, Department of Revenue. So it was like, listen, this is what you guys need to do. This is what has to be done. You need to do that.
Well, and that was because they wanted to get you to a point where you were financially able to go forward.
But a lot of those positions were brought back.
Oh, really? See, I'm not aware of that, and because it's something that's not publicized.
A lot of those positions were brought back for the. Josh, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, that $833,000 that you guys are talking about, I think you need to look at the $26.4 million down to 23.5. That's almost $300,000 in cuts that were made from this time last year until we settled the budget. You have to look at that as a whole. You have to look at everything that was cut out, and some of the teaching positions, not teaching positions, but a lot of the special ed stuff was reinstated into it into the budget because we had to. But those teaching positions, most of them were not replaced. And yes, there were a lot of cuts to teaching, but there was a lot of other money that came from other places. And so I think I now, it was explained to me where everything came from, and I actually have a sheet of paper that shows it to me. I think that's something that the administration needs to sit everybody down and explain it again, because we did it 5 or 6 different times throughout a year's period until we finally settled on that $23.5 million budget. We need to see that. That's your credibility. That's one of the big steps at getting some credibility back, is this is where we started, this is what we cut, this is where we landed, and explain it. That's one of the first things. The second thing, I agree with you guys, they need to open the books. You need to show everybody all of the money, and I don't see that happening either. But I guess in closing, we cut almost $300,000 out of that budget. A lot of positions, there was a lot of other money, and I think that needs to be explained better by the administration to get some credibility back.
So yeah, so originally there was a lot of pink slips went up. That's when everybody kind of threw their arms up. Everybody's up in arms at that point. But a lot of those positions were brought back in. With what money, I have no idea. It was.
Well, I think, unless I heard Josh wrong, a lot of those positions were mandated positions that had to come back in. Mm-hmm. So then you're making either cuts or something from somewhere else. I mean, we know that there's certain line items that got cut out of that budget, and maintenance for buildings. I mean, you're on a ticking time. You're on a time bomb.
This whole town is on a time bomb.
And that is something that this town does. And I've seen it. I've only been a resident here I bought my house in 2004. They delay, and then, okay, now we need to fix it, instead of doing the preventative maintenance. And the school examples, the school district's a prime example of that is, we're going to delay computers, we're going to delay books, we're going to delay everything. And then all of a sudden, when the grants dried up, and that's what it all comes down to. And people have this conception that money was stolen, and that's what I've gotten as I'm out getting my signatures and I'm talking to people. People think money was actually physically stolen.
I hear
from the
that a
district.
lot.
And it's not the case.
I think it's mismanaged.
Well, the best way to put it is the district was on welfare. I mean, they supplemented over $600,000 towards health insurance. They supplemented everything through grants, and that was money that was being used on a regular basis. And once those grants dried up, you're used to using that money. So what do you do once the welfare is cut off? Now you're in a conundrum. Conundrum.
I like that.
Well, the problem is, and we've talked about this before, and I apologize to the viewers. This show originally tonight was not going to be about school, but given the fact that Mr. Kularski, and we've had at least another 3 candidates from what I understand,
Correct.
in Spencer, and that just has not, it totally shifted everything. We wanted to get the candidates on, give them a chance to talk, and give their views so people can make informed choices when they're making the school committee choice. So I apologize for revisiting the school committee again. This was not something we were going to do. It's a lot of different things, Drew, and I don't think anybody has stolen any money, and I don't think we've ever alleged that. We just want to know where the money is, because we've tracked it up to October 22nd. We got the minutes from the school department. Martha had given me the minutes of the preceding meetings leading up to the October 26th meeting. And the last meeting, October 22nd, we're still $1 million away from making that final jump to where we are, to where we were at that point prior to all this last budget round of budgets. So we're still $1 million shy, and it's in black and white. Mm-hmm. And somebody says I can't, and I'm speaking off the cuff here because I don't have. I thought I brought the minutes with me. One of the I think it was one of the school committee members, or it was Dr. Malby, said, if you can find another $1 million, we're looking for that. We still have to try to get this number down. So from October 22nd to October 26th, we cut another $1 million somewhere. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, and it's and this could easily be cleared up. And we've said this many times. Open the books. Do a PowerPoint presentation. Look what the state of the town just did. Mm-hmm. And we posted it on our site. It was clear, it was concise. I've gone to all the budget reviews, and they're a real snooze fest, but they're opening the books bare and showing each department head is saying, this is what we got, this is what we're going, this is what we can't do without, and here's our final number. It's an open and shut case. The school system is doing exactly the opposite. Instead of saying, okay, look it, here's what we've got. They're doing exactly the opposite. And it's like, if you want us to go away and stop asking questions, answer the question.
Yeah,
It's a public school system.
And I spoke about that, and I think that's the right thing. But the other thing is we got to move beyond what we're dealing with now. This happened in 2013. We're almost through the 2014 budget. We got to
Yeah.
we got to start thinking about now the 2016 budget. I mean, the 2000 fiscal wife 2015 budget
Absolutely.
is going to affect soon, and then we're going to be doing 16 budget. So you need to just. It happened. It was. Someone said it. It was. That someone at one of the meetings said, it was the perfect storm. Everything happened. So someone wasn't paying attention. This guy did this. This guy did this. This guy did this, and everyone's pointing the fingers at every other person for it. It happened. The time now is to fix it. So there's a lot of things that I want to see done that I think are important. Like a new superintendent needs to be hired. You need someone who is going to have a long-term vested interest in this district. Dr. Malvey, I think he's doing a good job with what he's doing. He's getting the job done. Kids are getting taught. I don't like the fact of an initial recommendation of laying off a teacher for to save $55,000. Because I don't think we should ever be laying off a teacher. If anything, we should be adding teachers not to hurt one school district, but to help, or not to hurt the school in one town, but to help the school in the other town. And it just seemed like a big posture to do that at over $55,000. It just seems like it was so much wasted effort over you got a $24 million budget. $55,000 of that $24 million budget is nothing.
And it almost stalled the budget vote.
And it almost stalled the budget vote, which is then going to further damage the reputation that the school district has for the town, because they're waiting on this number in order to continue on in their process to figure out what they're going to do. We know the town's going to have a shortfall. We know they're going to be looking for an override. Now we know the school's going to be looking for an override. There's no doubt in my mind that an override is going to go down the hill. It's going to fail. We're going to be in the same position. Hopefully we don't get to the point where the state has to come in and set a budget again, because I think next time they might go more towards the school side.
Drew, hold
Which is
that
good.
thought for 1 second. We got a caller calling in. Good evening, caller. Welcome to The Other Side. What's your question?
Yes, hi. I would like to ask Mr. Kularski his view on Mr. Cloutier's plan of closing Lake Street and how he feels about moving the kids around.
I'm going to keep you on the line, caller, so if you have another question after he answers that, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Drew.
I think if logistic-wise, it could be a good idea, because it would make a district, and there's a cost savings and there's money to be saved. However, you can't even talk about that until you have the agreement amended, which would allow the transport of your pupils over the line for that elementary school age. It was said last year, there's too many schools in the district. For a district this size, there's just too many schools.
Sound familiar?
Nope.
Paul was beating that drum for a while.
And do I want my kid to have to travel to Northbrook, not Northbrook, to East Brookfield to go to school? Not really. It's a longer bus ride, and I think it would kind of change things. But is it better for the districts? Is it better for the kids? Like, I'm not in favor of cutting teachers. I want to be able to have the best district we can, and you're not going to do that by cutting teachers. But if by amending an agreement, that's the best option you can, because you're going to be able to have, it was talked about at the last school committee meeting, more teachers being able to bounce ideas off each other, work together. And the DSAC report talks directly about communication and talks about the schools aren't communicating with each other. Administration's not communicating with the schools. And I think the less schools involved, the easier it is to have that communication.
There's no question. And we talked about this before.
The caller's still there?
Oh, you still there, caller?
I am, thank you.
Is there anything else?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for calling. we've talked about that before, and that's one of the things that the teachers had a real gripe with was the lack of communication. And you talked to several people about that. That there was a severe lack of communication. East Brookfield doesn't know what Lake Street's doing, and they don't know what Maple Street's doing. And way back when Paul was on the school committee, one of his things was, look, what we should have done when they built these schools was we should have been consolidating these schools when we built Wire Village, when we built Knox Trail. We should have been doing that with the thought in mind of making a pre-K through 6. Maybe 7th grade with the high school, which, that blew up in our faces at a meeting. But the point was, people have been forwarding that agenda and saying, look, we need to do this. And people have been talking about, look, the teachers need to be more, there's not, it's like there's separate universes. Mm-hmm. And that's what the whole thing with curriculum mapping is supposed to do. It's supposed to get everybody on the same page.
But forget about the curriculum mapping thing. I mean, this starts, I've said it over and over and over again. The fish rots from the head down. So this has gone on for years. There's never been any group togetherness as far as any of the schools. You could live with a school in East Brookfield, and they've done their due diligence. They've got a K through 6. That's what they built. Mm-hmm. We could have done a K through 6 at Wire Village. Spencer could have done its due diligence, and then the regional part could have been the middle school and the high school. Pretty simple. I mean, it's not rocket science. The biggest thing is we have what we're dealt with. So we've got a school in East Brookfield, we've got Knox Trail, we've got Lake Street, we've got Wire Village, and we've got the high school. The problem is the K through 6 in East Brookfield, some of those teachers barely even talk to the K through 6 in Spencer. And that's not their fault. That's the lack of administration, getting people together. I said, why don't you just have a breakfast? Why don't you just have something where the kindergarten teachers from the schools can all intermingle in the first grade and the second grade? They were like, that would be terrific. I don't even know some of the teachers in East Brookfield. That's what I was told. This is 2 years ago. Okay, so to go along that same stream, we also have different report cards. We've got some schools on trimester. We've got some schools on quarterly. We've got some schools teaching this way. We've got some schools teaching that way. So again, as far as I'm concerned, it's a lack of leadership at the top. Before Malvey, before Naaman, you could go back, I don't know how far.
Oh, and that's my point is, everyone's pointing fingers like this, but I think these problems are well entrenched within the district. But it's time to start fresh, move forward. I mean, that's a great question. I think that's something that's going to come up. I mean, East Brookfield's made it no secret, like they don't really want to be part of the district anymore. It is what it looks like, which I don't think is the best thing for the Spencer. I don't think it's the best thing for East Brookfield because it's going to cost them the same. I think East Brookfield will get into a similar situation, whatever district it is, or whatever district they go to. The best thing to do, and Mr. Cloutier is right on that fact, is that you got to work together as a district. I understand his point is in that, and I understand his point of saying fair, but I think to cut one teacher from one school is bad. Instead, hire more for the other school and lower their class size, because ultimately what the school committee is supposed to do is it's supposed to set a budget that is for the best interest for the educating the children, and it just doesn't look like that's the budget that got sent down. The budget that got sent down is a budget that might pass, might fail, probably going to fail, but it's a budget that wasn't overboard, that the school committee at least feels comfortable that they can send down the hill without saying we're asking for too much. I think what I would have liked to seen as a parent is, we have all this information coming up about the DSAC reports and about that came up. Well, I don't know if it was a DSAC report, excuse me, but there was an issue that came about the technology for the map testing that's going to be coming, the technology, the books that are 14 years old that people are talking about. How about sending down a debt exclusion and getting some of these capital plans done? At least the townspeople are going to be able to say, that's where my money went. They're going to be able to say, okay, we spent $1 million, but it was on computers for the school. I know it was spent on computers for the school, and they're going to be able to see only 2 years left to pay, only 1 year left to pay. It's not a permanent mark on that tax bill. And debt exclusions, and this town's good with using, the municipal side of this town is excellent using debt exclusions, because it shows the people, like, we're not jacking your taxes up forever. just for a little bit.
It's a short-term debt.
It's a short-term debt. You can see exactly where the money's going, and you can track it. Debt exclusions, I think the school committee should be using debt exclusions for a lot more. I mean, the last debt exclusion for this
Good
district
idea.
was for Wye Village School, maybe? I looked at the tax bill, the
I
tax
think
bill today.
that's the next one that's coming off, either that or Knox Trail
The-
is coming
I
off.
think it, I,
Knox
think
Trail
Knox Trail's
first.
coming off
there's a
next.
school that's on there.
Yeah,
I want
Josh
to say
said Knox Trail came off.
$225,000, and there's one other debt exclusion I think that has to do with education that's currently on the tax rolls.
Yep.
Those are coming off. It drops down. A debt exclusion for $225,000 and whatever. The total debt exclusion, I want to say, for the town of Spencer was 85 cents on $1,000. And I think right now there's well over $1.5 million on that. I might be mistaken on the number, but I know, like, at least for one of the schools, it was over $225,000.
And I believe that comes off.
It comes off
in a couple
as
of
it
years,
goes,
I
but
think.
but as each thing goes through, I mean, that's how the fire truck was purchased. The
Yep.
the ladder truck was purchased. That's how the fire tanker was purchased. It shows people are more apt to vote for that because they're going to see what it is.
Well, it's not that residual cycling thing that keeps coming around again and again and again, and it makes sense. And one of the conversations I had with Adam Gaudet, the town manager, was, if you package this override, because the town side is obviously going to be looking for an override. That much is apparent. But if you package that with the school override, they're both going to get shot down, because I don't believe the school has done the due diligence. Regardless of if everybody's getting along or we're pointing fingers, they have not done the due diligence to say to the public, and you and I have said this before, yet they haven't said, here's what we've got. Here's where we started at 26, whatever the number was, 26.5, 26.7, and here's how we got to here. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to put those numbers on paper, put it in a PowerPoint presentation, or even come into the studio like they did for the state of the town, which I thought was a great idea. And they're doing the public hearings. All the budget hearings have been done publicly at McCourt Social Hall. Every Monday night. In fact, there's another one. Well, Monday night's going to be there's going to be a joint meeting between the select board and the school committee. So that's going to be interesting. I don't know because the selectmen don't have any control over the school committee and vice versa.
Well, and there's a reason for that, is because the school committee has a specific function, and it's funny because as I go along and I'm getting signatures, and then I'll get either a Facebook message or someone will somehow get in contact with me. Some people have called me, some people have emailed me, and then other people will talk to me as I'm asking for a signature and say, "What's your opinion on this?" And the teachers get too much. The teachers do this. The teachers do that. Well, what my honest opinion of what is happening in this town is the voters are treating the teachers as a liability instead of an asset. And
I get that.
The teachers should be an asset to the community. They bring a lot to the community. They are what's going to keep your property value up. The teachers did a lot, and I wish the past school committee, when you were sitting on it, Paul, when you guys settled up the last contract, it was a 3-year contract, but I think there was only 1 year left on it when you guys settled it. The contract is ending now. I mean, the school committee didn't publicize it, but those teachers took a huge concession. They changed their health insurance. There was a small offset. I want to say it was $1,500, maybe a little bit more dollars for offset, but they went from I think 85-15, some from 90-10, to everyone on a straight board giving up 25% of their health insurance. And I have to thank former school committee Matt McCarthy for getting me some of these numbers today. But there was another thing that I never even knew about, is that at one time the school, the members of the teachers union in this town got unlimited health insurance, HRA, health insurance reimbursement account. It was unlimited. So
We had no cap.
there was no cap. And I don't want to use big terms, but the potential liability on that was $700,000 to $800,000.
Correct.
The teachers put a cap on that at $100,000. That's a savings of potential $600,000 that the towns, the schools, never going to have to spend ever.
Right.
And then on top of that, anyone that comes in the district doesn't get that offset that the teachers got, whatever the
Right.
number was, 15 or
Right.
I'm not sure exactly. I want to say it was 15 to $2,000.
It was about $400,000 total.
Okay.
In stipends, one time.
That was only a one-time stipend?
For not one time, but there was they're stipends for the teachers that are still working in the district.
Right.
Anybody else that comes in, any new
And that's
hires
the thing is,
get
through attrition,
no stipends.
Through
Correct.
attrition, that goes away.
That's
so
a
as people
long-term savings.
As people retire, it's a long-term savings, but that savings is huge. Towns have been fighting health insurance for years. This town fought health insurance for years, and they got it down to a normal level. But you can't just take a big bite of the apple. You need to take small bites, and the teacher let the school district take a big bite of that apple. From rough calculations, that's a potential over $1 million savings right off the top. And the teachers union got no credit; they get bashed for it. In my opinion,
we tried to put that out there, but what was funny is we couldn't get past the first
It's
wave.
out there now.
No, we couldn't get past the first wave of haters because all they heard was you gave stipends. Nobody wanted to sit and listen to exactly what. And at that time, and I'll stick up for Mr. McCarthy because by that time his head was against the wall.
Yeah,
He
pretty
kept
much.
pounding it and pounding it and pounding against the. He did that. That team did a great job negotiating with the teachers union. Both sides did it in good faith. Both sides realized that hey, we got to give up something to get something. It was well played on both sides.
it was, and I think the teachers, they gave up. I think, in my opinion, as being a union employee, they gave up a lot. And I think they did that to help the district. I think they did it because they want to see the district succeed. They want to see the district move forward. They want to see the district get out of the mess that it's in. Now, if you recall, when I walked in here, I started asking Josh. I wanted to hear some numbers about insurance opt-out program.
Right.
And the particular reason why I asked those questions, and if anyone doesn't know what an insurance opt-out program is, basically you get paid not to take health insurance. Back in 2005, in the town I work with, there's a town administrator in Sturbridge. His name is Sean Sahowski. He was the town administrator in the town that I work for. And health insurance was a huge thing. They wanted to look outside the box options for insurance opt-outs. Mm-hmm. And what we came up was, he and I collaborated when I was the union president and said, this is what we should come up with. And we came up with a plan to opt out. And it was for any person that was on the town's health insurance, if you got off, you get $5,000 for every year you're not
Like
on.
if your spouse carries the insurance.
If your spouse carries the insurance. The benefit for the employee, and it was $5,000 for a family plan, $2,400 for a single plan. And it was a slow rollout. People really didn't quite understand it. But as health insurance changed, co-pays went up, people said, hey, wait, I could probably get my health insurance for free. So we went with high numbers, $5,000 for a single plan, for a family plan, $2,400 for a single plan. This school committee has done the same thing, $1,300 for, roughly $1,300 for a single plan, and he said $2,000-ish or a little $2,400-ish for a family plan.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Those numbers, they don't get it done because there's not enough incentive. So I got some numbers just because I wrote them down because I wanted to talk about this because this is a potential savings. I'm not even sure how many teachers are in the district.
About 170.
Okay, so for the town I work for, the school district is separate. It's a regional.
I take that back. I don't know if
I was going
that's
to say it's
teachers
about
and
100 and
it's a teacher. Hey Josh, what do we got for? Do you know off the top of your head for teachers versus aides? Do we have 170 teachers plus aides, or are we at 170 together?
I think we have more. I think the 170 might just be the teachers.
Teachers? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I believe he's right.
So to give numbers though is the numbers we're at is at the town I work in is $5,000 for a family plan, $2,400 for an individual plan. They offer a couple different insurances, and the cost of the insurances we're at $2,575, the same as what they're at here. So for a family plan, the cost for the town is $14,193. The cost for an individual plan, we're just going to stick with the family plan, just so you can see the savings that happen. So the cost for the family plan for the town, for their 75%, was $14,193. By offering the $5,000 opt-out, the town pays out the $5,000, gets the employee off the rolls, no burden at all for the town, and the town saves $9,193 just by not giving that person insurance.
Well, the thing is, and Matt explained this to me on a number of occasions when him and I went on a committee together in 2009, is that a lot of it is, it's what's the word he used? It's not always obvious savings. when you're talking about insurance, when you're talking about rates, and,
Well, this was a hard sell for
Oh,
me,
it is.
me and him.
It's a very
for
hard
me and him
sell.
to get in front of the selectmen, or for him, he was more of the pitcher of it, and I was like, yeah, you tell him. It was, well, why are we going to give money away for nothing? Well,
because you're not looking at the other side of it where you're catching it on the back end.
So just for the example, we in our town, and it was, like I said, a slow rollout. It took about 4 years before people started really understanding, because the benefit for the employee who does this opt-out is they get free health insurance. I opt out from health insurance for my work. I get the $5,000. My wife's health insurance, I think at her work, is $4,600 a year. So I actually make money, not paying for health insurance. That $5,000 offsets the premiums that she pays.
It's short money for a long-term payout.
Exactly. So, and then the way they do it now is they do it out over 26 equal payments, throughout the year, just for accounting purposes,
Right.
so you can track it, and if someone leaves or someone comes in, you can, carry on. But last year our town saved through 14 people, 14 people who are on a family plan, 2 people on an individual plan, saved $135,360 for 16 people not taking health insurance. They only paid out, I want to say they paid out $74,800, but saved $135,360.
Well, whenever you're talking about insurance, and I know Matt was, and Josh had said to me when you were talking, that at the end of that contract, these guys were beat up. I mean, it was like that. That was a pretty long, hard year.
As a public
Yeah.
employee in Massachusetts, that's the only thing that you can really hold on to and guarantee is that you had that insurance. Now, there was a health insurance reform law for municipal employees, and there's an exemption in it where Worcester County is not included in it. It is, if I don't recall the exact chapter and section. I want to say it's 32B21.
The 32B sounds familiar.
Yeah, well,
There's a lot of
different
32B.
sections.
Different sections, but
Batted
there's a
that
part
around
that
before.
excludes just Worcester County. I can't figure. No one will tell me why it just excludes Worcester County, but every other county, that basically you can impact bargain with the unions, and you can set up. It's not. I shouldn't say you can opt to impact bargain with the unions, or if you can show that you have a plan that's going to create a 10% savings, you can force that on the union, and they get a portion back of the money. That's forcing something down a union's throat never works. I started off by saying that it's a working relationship, so it's better to get people in, negotiate, and that's what it looks like happens here. Is the union came in, they negotiated, they got something that they thought was fair, the town got something they thought was fair, they moved on, and I truly think it worked out for the town's benefit.
But here's the rub, Drew, and this is from watching this for years. Is for a long time there were no concessions made, and this is no knock on Mark James. He's a good union negotiator, and we've talked about this.
Sure.
And
He does his job.
You can't be mad at the union for doing their job. When the head of the MTA, his job is to look out for the teachers and the employees within his union, and they do one hell of a job. And we've said it before. But the other side of that is,
I don't have all praise for the union.
Oh, no.
Because on the other on hindsight of that is, and I believe I said to you when I talked to you the other day when you called me, this is also a union that will eat their own.
oh, absolutely.
And I don't mean that to say. I mean,
There's no doubt about that.
in law enforcement, things work a little differently because you're always looking out for your brother, and you don't want your brother out there not working and his family suffering.
That's a great theory.
So you're gonna give up a little bit in order to help that person out.
Not here.
And I mean, there's lots of positions. Like I'm very surprised. Like when that a single position of $55,000.
There was a fight over that.
I'm surprised there was a fight over that. I'm surprised the teachers union didn't say, "Hey, what can we do to give up $55,000?"
You'll never, ever in my lifetime, as long as this is the situation and the union people are in place that are in place right now, you will never see that happen. This union a number of years ago, they had a chance to save, I think it was 6 teaching positions, and the union said absolutely not. It's not like when you're talking about like the town side, like when the town selectmen say, and they did say this at the East Brookfield meeting, they were talking about that, and they were like, well, our employees took a pay cut. They've been great. They've taken pay freezes, they've taken pay cuts, they've gone without, they've contributed more to health insurance. Granted, they got a stipend to help offset that cost, but like you said, after a year, that's attrition. Then now you're that's no longer.
Well,
paying.
wait a minute. There's a difference between a stipend and a raise.
Well, this was a raise, but
It was a raise.
It was a raise.
stipend you can never get a raise on. A stipend is a fixed
All right, good
number.
point. Good point.
A stipend is a fixed number. A raise, every time they get a raise, goes up a percentage.
We're talking like usually
Or a
it's like
stipend
a
that would be a
1%.
percentage would also go up as well. As that, in the police world, we have percentages of you'll get 4% stipend for that, so it's 4% off of your base salary. So there's other ways around that would go up.
But what was agreed upon with the teachers union versus the town, and nobody really knows that, is the money saved when the town increased their contribution went to raises to those town employees. Not that I'm against that, but you can't sit there in a school selectmen's meeting and say, well, you know, the town employees paid 25%. They went from 15 or 10
That was
or
comparing
whatever.
apples, truly comparing apples,
Apples to oranges. Okay, and I'm
Well, that's a big trick in the municipal world, and I hate to say it because I've been part of it. I mean, I'm on the union side. You take money from one pocket and say, yeah, we're saving on health insurance, and you put it in the other side.
Well, the other side of it too is our town.
But you got to remember there's a long-term goal to it, and that's what happened with this particular case. At least with the town, with the teachers, is they got that stipend or the offset. I think they worded it as an offset.
it was
get
a stipend.
Okay, but they get the offset
Yep.
or stipend. I'm going to call it offset because it offsets what they were paying for insurance. They got that offset. That's not there forever because as that teacher goes away, that's an instant,
Exactly,
that's an instant
exactly.
savings for the community. So every time someone retires, the district
Saves a little money.
saves a little bit of money.
Right.
Might not be a lot, but in the long term, when you talk 15, 20 years, as you have a mass exodus of teachers,
And it will happen.
it will happen.
You're going to have that turnover.
And it's a guarantee. I mean, it's not like it's not going to happen. It's going to happen at some point.
And the other thing they gave up during negotiations, if they leave the district and come back,
They
you know,
also lose that.
they lose that
It's
stipend.
once
So
you- once
you-
Oh
step
yeah,
away
that's
to the
true.
employer.
That's a
so
good
you
point.
have
That's
to
a good
start.
point.
You start just like a new hire.
Just like a new hire.
So-
So I mean, kudos to the union for doing that. And I really think it's a shame that didn't get publicized because it's something good that this teachers union did.
It was. There's
And
no
they did it
question.
at a time that was the most important.
What was-
and they got zero recognition.
Well,
for it.
what was funny is we had a school committee member absolutely denounce that they got you want to call it an offset, I'll call it a stipend, but either way, denounce that they got anything. So we couldn't even get past that.
Well, the problem is Paul, is just like you got people who are narrow-minded who look at something and they go, okay,
Correct.
no, you're paying out money. No, we don't want to pay out money. But if you got to get towards your long-term goal, and sometimes you have to pay money to get to your long-term goal. As long as it gets the job done, they did not give away the farm on that contract.
No.
The town. Well, I keep saying the town, but the district saved so much money. It might not be up there up front, but they saved
Long-term, it
so
is
much
gonna
money long term. And not to talk about the potential liability that was there with the health insurance reimbursement.
Oh,
account.
Yes.
absolutely.
I mean, $700,000 to $800,000 potential liability. That's almost $1 million. I mean, that's almost $1 million savings right there.
It's like I started to say with our police department. They went from 17 to 40%. 17 and 40. That's a 23% increase. Granted, they got a raise, but like you know as well as I do,
Well,
you can get a raise, but that health insurance is
but-
still going to eat it up down the road.
So, and that's the thing is what you're doing, and I've been in that union position where you make that decision, and we can talk about. We don't have to talk about just schools. We can talk about all the town politics. As you're making that decision, and I'm sitting there as a union official making that decision, is okay. I'm going to get a stipend, and I got a stipend when I went from 75 to 25 at my work, and it was a $50 per week stipend. But what happened is, as health insurance premiums continued to rise, that got absorbed. It was projected that it was going to take 5 years. It took 2, and then
Amazing. Huh?
and then we had gotten forced onto a GIC lookalike plan, and as that GIC lookalike plan happened, we were basically forced upon it, just like through that 32B. I want to say it's Section 21. We were forced upon it. The town said we're going to adopt this section. We said, okay, well, we want to sit down. We want to negotiate with you. All the unions, every union in the town, at the table together. We want to negotiate insurance so it's something fair because we don't want bad insurance. And that's what the town said, we don't want you to have bad insurance either, but we need to save some money. So we came to a compromise on what plan we were going to have. They gained almost $1 million savings, and then they kicked $100,000 of that savings back to the employees through a health insurance reimbursement account. So it was that working together again. That health insurance reimbursement account didn't replenish itself, but it got the job done. And that's what the long-term goal is you got to work with the union, not against the union. You got to treat the teachers and every employee of this district and every employee of this town as an asset, not a liability. Everyone brings something to the table here. Everyone has a function. You don't want to be paying the lowest bidder to teach your kids. I mean,
I've said that over and over again.
If
If
you-
you have
if
to
you-
have heart surgery, do you want the guy? Do you want the?
do you want the guy who graduated last from Harvard or the guy who graduated first?
I'll
You want the
take-
guy that graduated first.
Yeah, him and I go back and
We
forth.
could,
with that.
we could have
So-
that argument all day long. It's like you have to prove that's the situation, that it is the best, you know. And it's I'd like to think that all our teachers are the best. And the mistake I made,
Wait.
you know, let me finish. Just let me finish this thought. Was when, and because it goes to the people who are not agreeing with the teachers. At one point, I didn't agree with the teachers because I asked the teachers to take a pay freeze. And that is the last thing you should ever do when you're a school committee member. If I give you one good piece of advice if you get on this committee, don't ever ask anybody. And I understand it now. But at the time, you know, it was like anathema. It's like we don't talk about that. That's not something. It's not that spirit of giving. And I understand now that I was blaming teachers, and what I should have been doing was blaming the union. I should have been putting the blame where it belonged, because at that time, and I mean, you can't talk about that because you weren't a part of that. That's something that was going on that was vicious, and it was my fault for blaming teachers and not saying, look, I understand you guys are doing your job, meaning, you know, Mark James and the union. And that's how that goes. And the town perceives that the same way, because I'm a blue-collar guy. I'm a painting contractor. Paul used to be a plumber. You know, we're from that, and a lot of this town is based on that. And I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong, Drew, but for a lot of years, we saw them go from 10% healthcare input because they were forced to by the state to 15% over a long, long, long period of time, because we had former school committees that had members of the staff working in our schools and just said, here, what else can we do for you? So now we're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Well, what I see now is that, you know, I think that the teachers are recognizing that the district is in a dire strait. They need to have, there needs to be some changes, and they realize that they're going to be part of the change and not part of the, I guess, demise of the district. At least that's what I see on my end. And to go back on the quality of teachers, my oldest kid is in the 3rd grade, and you know, so he was at Maple Street School, he was at Lake Street School, and now he's at Wyatt Village School. I can say nothing but good about every person I've ever interacted within the district who's ever dealt with him. His current 3rd grade teacher, I'm going to put her on the spot, and I'm going to call her out right now. Lynn Harris is a 3rd grade teacher.
We've got some great teachers.
I believe she moved from the 4th grade. If I shoot her an email, she's responding from home because she's calling me at 7. She's emailing me back 7 o'clock at night just to answer a simple question. I mean, working, and that's the thing that people aren't putting in consideration. She's at home and she's still responding to me, and I guarantee the majority of the teachers in this district would do that, because
And I've heard that.
This is a small community.
I've heard that.
And it's a family. I mean, ultimately, it takes everyone to raise your children. It takes a village, right?
Absolutely, and it's true.
And I think the teachers truly care. They call up if they. I have seen every teacher that I've ever had, if they had a concern with how something happened with my child, or if something was going on, they've called. If I've had a question, they've emailed back.
And that's what you want.
And I'm not talking like during school day. I'm talking 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. Hey, I just want to get back to you today, just so you know that I got your message and I'll look into something for you. That to me goes a long way.
I don't think there's a doubt about. I'm sorry, Paul. You started something, but I don't think there's a doubt that we have good teachers in the system.
I've met them all. When I first got on board, the first thing I did was, I called up I talked to the superintendent. I talked to the chairman. Said I'd like to go visit each school. I had no idea what kind of turnout I was going to. I'm going to do it on my own time and just meet with the teachers and the administrators. It was the most enlightening thing, eye-opening thing I'd ever
I remember that
experienced.
phone call I got from you.
It was unbelievable.
Well, it's a good thing to ask, and I think that's an important thing to ask teachers is,
They all showed up,
what do you need?
but they all showed up.
It was going to have the individual discussions. What do you need? What would make you better? What would make the school district better? don't worry about what the principals need. You talk to the people in the
Oh,
trenches.
they'll give you a laundry list. I mean, because there's a lot of
talk
stuff
to the
they
people in the
need.
trenches, and they're going to say, "This is what we need." Like, man, I send in tissues, I send in hand sanitizer on a regular basis because it's what they need. If it's little things like that that can make the classroom that much better and take a distraction away of looking for tissue, something's that simple, you know.
And a lot of parents do that. I mean, a lot of parents
They
are
do.
either actively involved. I mean, you guys, I know you and Heather are very actively involved.
Not,
in the schools.
unfortunately, not so much this year, but for the longest period of time, Heather used to go in 2 and 3 days a week. You know, one of the things that the teachers liked were the stuff that she cooked during
Oh yeah.
during Christmas
for the
time,
holidays.
For the holidays, but you're right. I mean, any small things that can be done for to help move the district in the correct direction or the proper direction. There was one time when I was early on, from walking around and talking to people in this district, it was like, remember the Viking ships where everybody had a paddle? Mm-hmm. Right, so everybody's got an oar. And that's what it felt like in this district. Everybody had an oar, but there was nobody paddling in the right direction. Everybody's going at their own, either a different speed or a different direction. The thing was just floundering.
Well, I can tell you that the one thing that you do need to move this district forward is you need the teachers.
There's no doubt
You're
about
not
it.
Can't do it without
You're
them.
not going to do it without them.
No.
You can do it without some administrative staff. You can do it without this, but the teachers are the backbone. They're the core. Without them, everything else collapses. They're the base. They're the base of the education, and if you don't have them, everything else falls.
Well, and that's the hardest part for me to swallow is you have, just to change this for a second, you have people in the government, federal government and the state government deciding how kids are going to get taught, when the real people that should say how the education should go are the ones in the trenches, like you
Frontline
said.
teachers.
Like the ones in the classroom. I don't need my kid having 100 tests a year to give back to the state to say, well, this is what's wrong with your school. I have a teacher that's in that classroom with my son that can give me an update literally every single day.
Drop him off and you can say, how's he doing?
Okay, every single day.
What I've found in this district is if they recognize a problem, they're going to call you. You're not going to have
If
to.
they know you're proactive as a parent, that's one thing I'll say about the teachers in this district. They're always responsive. I mean, they were with my daughters. It was like, I'd say, you'd ask a question and they'd have an answer. I mean, there was people like a guidance counselor. I can't think of her name off the top of my head now, who helped my daughter with math. I mean, there's always somebody willing to step up within the system, and I found that to be the case when my kids were in school. They're in college. They're out of college now, and I think it's been a statistic.
But like I said, and I hate you're going to hear it a million times from me, is you got to treat the teachers and the staff, as all the staff of the school, as an asset, not a liability. I don't want to just stop at the school. I want to spread that all the way through town into East Brookfield. Is people going to be treated as an asset and liability? And as I'm talking to people, people are like, oh, they pay too much for. They don't pay enough for health insurance. They pay too little for retirement. They get paid too much.
That comes over time. That comes through contract negotiations.
But
and you
it comes
guys
through
well know
contract
that.
negotiations. It comes through, and I don't want this to be a big thing about, hey, you teachers, you're the best thing. Teachers are important. But I don't think the teachers are getting the recognition they need, and I think they're getting their fingers pointed at them a lot for something that they had zero control over. It had nothing to do with that. I mean, obviously teachers negotiated, the teachers union negotiated a contract, but this had nothing to do with the teachers themselves. And you can't begrudge the teachers union for looking out for its members. That's their job. Just like the school committees.
Absolutely.
Everyone has their job in this big cog. And when it falls apart, which is what happened, the wheel breaks. So people keep saying, making too much, they're doing this, too much retirement, yada, yada, yada. Well, retirement is something we have no control over. That's on the state level.
Right.
The state controls contributions. And what a lot of people don't know is every county, I believe Worcester County is administered by the state because they were underfunding retirement board. But you go to Middlesex County, they have almost $1 billion in their retirement. I mean, so they're an overfunded. They don't have the big problems of being an underfunded retirement. They have the money there. Probably unless there was a huge mass exodus, then that'd be a big problem. But if you look at a teacher's salary and their education, the majority of them are going to have master's degrees. If they were in the private sector, how much money would they make? they'd be making.
All right, listen, you're
They'd
not
be
going to get any
making-
argument from me.
They'd be making exponentially more
they're-
than what they're making as a public school teacher. So when you incorporate those benefits in there, such as the health insurance and the retirement, and this goes not just for teachers, it goes for all municipal employees. When you incorporate, what they get for benefits in there, they're still not at what they would be probably in the private sector. I mean, private sector with a master's degree, I don't think you're going to get it.
But that's a choice. I mean, we
It's a
go back.
choice.
I hear teachers say that,
But
and we got to wrap this portion of it up. We got a few minutes left, but that's a choice people make. So when people say, "Well, I'm only making this," it's like, "Well, I'm making this, but I'm a painting contractor. I chose to do this." So that we could have that argument back and forth.
It is a choice. I'll give you that.
We'll come back to that in a second. A couple quick things. The second annual Lucky 25 raffle for the benefit of the Spencer Food Pantry to help residents of Spencer and East Brookfield is going on right now. Tickets are $1 each, or a book is 7 for $5. The drawing is March 23rd at 2014 at 1 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus, 10 Meadow Street in Spencer, Mass. Tickets are available by calling Larry Berard at 508-579-7241. That number again, 508-579-7241. Also, another quick hit. David Prouty names its Panthers of the Month. The following students at David Prouty High School have been recognized as February's Panthers of the Month: Cameron Dacey, Michaela King, Isabella Sullivan. This Panther of the Month program is sponsored by the National Honor Society to recognize those students who are making positive contributions to David Prouty High School and the community. And congratulations to those kids. And Dan Martin is home from the hospital. I've been told he was in the hospital for a week, and he's home. Rehab. He was at Spalding Rehab for a week. On another note, Peter Rock was invited to come in tonight. In fact, he wanted to come in, but he didn't make it in tonight for whatever reason. We will try to reschedule him. Paul, Drew, any final thoughts?
How much time do we have?
What do we got left, Josh? Got about 3 minutes.
The one thing that we're trying to really kick off here is a PTO group, and I think it's important that people understand that a PTO is more than just fundraising. That's a voice it's a voice for the parents. It's a voice for the kids. The group that that's formed is going to be asking the school committee to be put on the agenda at every single meeting. They want a voice at that school committee meeting, okay? Which I think is fair.
It's a very good idea.
That goes right into what I was talking about with that communication of what's the difference between me walking into the schools and saying, "Hey, teachers, what do you need?" The teachers and the parents can have that communication. The parents can advocate for their children. The parents can answer, can talk to the elected officials who they put there to say, "This is what our kids need. This is what our schools need."
Correct.
And we'd like to see the teachers actively involved in this. And just for the record, we are not going to be part of that. Paul and I just tried to get this thing set up so that they could carry this on themselves, and the other side will not be a part of that.
What's funny is
program.
they've actually already targeted their first fundraising, I guess. It was like
They were
within
good.
an hour and a half, they said, "All right, books. What can every school use? Books." So that's kind of what they wanted to go after. Other than that, I think Drew's pretty much hit things right on the head as far as what's wrong with the district, ways to fix it. He's brought some fresh ideas in. Anyways, the only thing that we can say is good luck with the election. It is a tough job.
It certainly is, and it was a lot of discussion with my family and friends, and I'm a father of 4, and I'm a detective, and I'm on call, and my wife is an emergency room nurse, so we got a lot going on in our family. But it's something that we said, this is you need to have someone who's going to be out there advocating and who has a clear focus on what it is. And I've never been an elected official. I've never wanted to be elected official. I've been one of those people who just wants to be just want to do my own thing, but it's something that I think needs to be done, and I want to at least be able to say I tried. And
I don't know what it
There's
is.
if I try every day,
You get sucked into it. I don't know what it is, but you get sucked into it.
well, I think a key is don't create personal friendships, don't create alliances, and go in and keep your focus on what you think is important to you, and don't get wrapped up in I guess the town politics of it, or the trying to create allies, I guess, amongst the table. I think it's very important for a school committee member to be an individual and to be able to bring their own ideas and someone else's ideas, but also you need to be able to listen to other people's ideas and be able to accept other people's ideas, because
All right, we got to
Everyone has a
close
good
it off. We
idea.
got to close it off there, Drew. We got 10 seconds left. Thanks for joining us tonight on the other side. Thanks to our guest, Kularski, and we'll see you next time on the other side.